Compared to sight-dependent humans, this automaton was far better equipped to navigate its way through the labyrinth of mirrors. If it couldn't keep pace earlier, it was because its bipedal mode of movement wasn't up to the task. But the stability provided by multiple legs gave it speed that far exceeded that of any human. Her thoughts spun out as she tried to come up with a plan B. All she knew for sure was that this was a pivotal moment. If she continued standing still, she had seconds left at most. Even in her current state, she knew she could easily neutralize the bounded field blocking the entrance without casting a spell. All she had to do was pour a little of her own energy into it. Aoko could sprint with all her might for a little more than 3 minutes. The puppet had far more stamina than she did. She could only come up with 3 options. The first was to escape through the exit in front of her. The second was to hide herself somewhere within the far more complicated first floor. And the third was to run into the basement and be stuck like a rat in a trap.
Well...
She made her decision with zero hesitation, moving her stiff legs again with determined strength. The oncoming storm was almost upon her. With resolve firm, she turned and ran, descending into the darkness. No matter what, a finale should be glorious. This would be the Mirror Castle's final scene. 2 humans and a puppet. A young sorceress ran towards the subterranean heart of the castle. She is not a sorceress yet.
It's still, I mean, yeah.
While an autonomous antique chased its prey into the depths of a demonic dungeon.
Okay.
A minute later, a faint blue charge would ripple through the castle. This was the main pillar in the deepest depths of the basement. The pillar itself wasn't there to support the castle's structure, but it would serve nicely as the symbol into which the girl thrust her fist with all of her magical energy. This was the blow that would bring down the castle. She imagined the scene as she threw the punch, a scene that would soon become reality. It was simple ignition magecraft, meant to release the condensed magical energy engraved into the 4 pillars that formed the foundation of the structure. Using electricity as a switch meant virtually instantaneous activation.
Okay.
Swift and elegant. A hammer of destruction descended upon the castle of dreams that had stubbornly resisted its fate for 2 years. Man, I can't wait for the church to write this off as a gas leak tomorrow.
That was an abandoned building anyway. They'll just say it, deteriorated.
It was almost a joyous sound. And so, the lifeless and abandoned Castle of Mirrors set the stage for its final and most spectacular performance. Aoko's magical energy became an electrical charge that activated the magecraft formula engraved into the pillar. The chain reaction would lead to the castle's destruction.
And you still have to get out of here past that spider thing. Oh.
The plaza in the center of the basement. Aoko tried to steady her breathing while rotating her magic crest at full speed. She wreathed her arms in blue light, fully aware that she could no longer activate another formula. Her labored breathing refused to settle. She stood at the center of the basement. Without being spotted even once, she'd managed to make it all the way to the central pillar. It was a 100-meter dash in 13 seconds flat. Undoubtedly a new personal best.
Nice.
She spurred on her weakened heart, knowing full well the fate that awaited her.
入れば追ってくる。地下に行けば逃げられない。当然よね。最後まで逃げ回ろうなんて虫のいい話だった。
Hindsight was 2020. The castle was only a minute away from collapsing entirely. If they stayed here, they would both be crushed by the rubble. The puppet certainly didn't care.
Yeah.
With no life of its own, its sole concern was the elimination of its target, Aoko Aozaki. Indeed, the enemy had been willing to die from the start.
Yep.
She resented her own lack of resolve. It wasn't like her to tuck tail and run from an opponent that didn't fear death.
That's the point of using drones.
六足歩行とフィンの一撃は使いすぎよ。もう呪詛による魔力補給じゃ間に合わない。
Such a perpetual motion device was only as good as its ability to regulate its energy consumption. Using so many functions at once meant it was burning through fuel quickly and losing the ability to process the curses that powered it. It was using up all the functions that had been given to achieve its aim. This was the pride of a tool. If such things could have ego, those endowed with sentience could never hope to understand. A beast born to do nothing but run would burn any human who faced its resolve.
本当、もったいない。こういう無茶をするのは姉貴だけかと思ってたけど、いるところにはいるもんね。
Okay.
You mentioned her.
What if your sister's the one controlling these things?
What if, huh?
But Aoko did not intend to sacrifice play here. I mean, why else would the doll look so much like Aoko unless the person that's like...
Well, yeah.
Is just really obsessed with her?
Also, depends on how much you know about her sister.
She respected her adversary now, and she was done regretting her choices. There was no time to waste.
行くわよ。ここできっかり。
Aoko had every intention of paying it back double for what it had done to her.
Oh.
The energy Aoko had accumulated exploded out of her right leg. She aimed for a single thing, a head-on attack.
Just punch it in its stupid face, right?
The enemy's response was a curse to crush her heart. A curse that would rend Aoko's heart and destroy itself in the process. As soon as she saw it, Aoko kicked the floor as hard as she could. Her long hair swirled through the air as she flipped aside. This lateral move almost sent her tumbling to the ground, but a quick swing of her arm allowed her to regain her balance.
Ooh.
A shot grazed her arm, with the curse scorching her left shoulder. She didn't flinch. Aoko knew she could hold on as long as she continued to avoid a direct fin shot.
Snap.
Well, you can just do that again now?
Let's see. Ah, okay, just with her arm.
Off balance and in pain, it took her half a second to recover. The moment she raised her head, she deflected the attack with a fistful of magical energy. If the puppet had a will of its own, its eyes would have popped right out of its sockets. It would have been floored, shocked at the strong will that allowed this girl to perform a series of moves like this. Aoko's response was instantaneous. While her power wasn't sufficient to completely redirect the arm's trajectory, it was just enough to deflect it harmlessly past her hair.
It was all a mistake. I should never have been born. A Atone for me, atone for me, atone for me.
The chant became a curse that robbed Aoko of her vitality. Did it still have something left in the tank? Or was it actually indignant?
Just trying to take you with it, I guess.
Whatever the reason, Aoko was easily able to resist its weakened defensive maneuver.
Oh. Nice.
And her right leg, pulsing with magical energy, shot up into the puppet's chest from below. It was much lighter than Aoko anticipated. Or rather, she felt little resistance. An automaton's weight was determined by its internals, the size of its power source. Ironically, it was the superiority of its music box engine that proved to be its downfall.
Oh, because it's a lighter engine, that meant it got flung much harder.
Venite, venite, venite. Meum sepulchrum venite.
Yeah. Welcome, welcome, welcome my grave.
A stuttering curse. Having taken the full brunt of Aoko's kick, the puppet bounced from ceiling to floor, collapsing in a heap. Its internal construction had been warped by the impact, leaving the drum of the music box that powered the puppet warped as well.
恨むなら設計者を恨みなさい。ダイナモの一つでも積んでいれば、もうちょっとは重たくなったでしょうに。
Better just run, Aoko. Whoa, okay.
Part of the ceiling came crashing down in front of Aoko, snapping her back to her senses.
ところで今、どうやってぶっ倒したんだろう。
More or less.
Well, damn, I didn't have to collapse the building after all.
I mean, yeah, I actually just lured her into a spot where you could just smash her.
You know, in retrospect, this was a pretty stupid way to die. She was so stunned by her own victory that she forgot the House of Mirrors had already begun to collapse. Oh shit, falling building.
Yeah, wait, hang on. I'm supposed to run.
There was no time to relish in her victory or pity her opponent. Not unless she wanted to meet the same fate.
Yep.
As the situation stood, she found it hard to imagine getting out alive. She slapped herself on the cheek. Which one? And
Face.
took off. This was her bounty for finishing their battle in a matter of seconds.
Huh.
With her breathing labored by all the excitement, she ran for the exit. The collapse was intensifying by the second. Having lost its support pillars, the castle was buckling under its own weight. Well, I'm glad to see your circuits are working again.
Yeah, I guess she's not being jammed anymore.
Escaping from the basement was proving to be no easy task. While she was taking the shortest route possible through the maze, she was nearly crushed by a falling piece of the ceiling along the way. This was the second time, no, the third, she had to deal with fallen rubble along the way. She destroyed the debris on the stairs with magic bullets as she ran. The automaton's jamming had long since worn off. The earlier attack had damaged the vast majority of its functions. Her breathing was heavy as she ran. The intensity surrounding her sparked her brain into overdrive. The ceiling seemed to be collapsing in slow motion. For her, a second felt like 5. Her frayed nerves made it hard to read time correctly. As her life seemed to flash before her very eyes, a light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh.
There was debris riddled throughout the stairway, forcing her to crawl up it. She emerged from the destroyed basement into the collapsing first floor. That the plaza was still traversable at all was a miracle in itself, and fortunately for her, the crucial path to the exit was still intact.
よし、ついてる。
The corridor to the entrance was still intact. The basement maze only extended as far as the plaza, so the entrance corridor wouldn't collapse. Only the ceiling would cave in, leaving the scaffolding surrounded.
The scaffolding surround intact. Huh.
Yep, that is what that says.
Okay.
She got herself this far by telling herself repeatedly that fate would decide whether or not she reached the plaza. Her gamble paid off. It was her lucky day. All she had to do was muster the last of her strength and keep moving forward until... She hesitated for a fraction of a second. Was it naivety? A sense of responsibility?
Wondering where Sojiro is?
She pushed aside the image that popped into her head and continued running down the corridor.
言っとくけど、時間合わせの余裕はないわよ。そんな上等な作戦じゃないし、お互いできることをやったら最速で出口に向かいましょう。
That was 5 minutes ago. At the time, Sojiro had nodded with trepidation, and Aoko hadn't bothered to ask herself why.
何様だったの私。今は走ることだけ考えろ。
Yep, just trusted he got out, I guess.
This corridor was giving out too. If she were to look back, she was sure she would see the building collapsing in on her. She was also sure she had no time to waste doing so. Her luck was fading as fast as the building's structural integrity. It was a small miracle that she escaped serious injury up to this point, and she couldn't afford even the slightest slip-up. An ankle sprain, loss of balance, even a sneeze would be fatal. A simple pat on the back was enough to end it. So naturally...
Oh, God.